Today podcast. We're here with return guest Darren Virassammy, and Darren is from 34strong.com, and they have a very useful tool called StrengthsFinder that I'm sure Darren will get us caught back up to again if we haven't heard about it. So Darren, been a while. How have things been?
Hey, Robert. Yeah, thanks for having me back on, man. We had so much fun last time we were on here. Been great, man. Been great. How about yourself?
Not too shabby, can't complain. Busy, but also doing better with like the systematizing, the outsourcing, and kind of, having more of a machine as opposed to something that is unpredictable and comes and goes, but it's still fun. So I feel like I have everything.
Absolutely. We've been kind of in that same vein, interestingly enough. Been doing a lot of that, systematizing, setting up for scale. So I know how important that is,
Yeah, and it's like, it seems like there's a little bit of a growing pains aspect. Like we don't want to do it, but we force ourselves to do it. And after we've done it, we're like, I'm such an idiot. I should have done it years ago, right?
Absolutely.
Cool. So you said that there have been all kinds of changes afoot. So what have you been up to since we last spoke?
Just picking up on that point there, Robert, some of the stuff that we've really been getting into, a lot of our business has been heavily in what we like to call our boots on the ground consulting. So as you mentioned, we do a lot of work in the strength space. The StrengthsFinder is one of the tools that we really utilize, but it's really in the vein of helping to create long-term cultures of employee engagement. At the end of the day, what we really do is we help to build great places to work, or we help our clients build great places to work. They're ultimately the ones that are building. We're just the tour guide. But a big part of that in our focus has been setting ourselves up from a system standpoint to be able to scale that, to be able to support larger clients, to support longer term engagement, and to create more impact long-term and culturally. So a lot of the work that we've been doing has been kind of behind the scenes. It sounds like you've been in kind of similar space as well. Some of the stuff is kind of like, it's kind of like watering the roots of a tree, right? You have to water the roots of that particular tree or plant or whatever it might be, to be able to see the growth above surface, but you can't see it day in and day out. I feel like a lot of the work that we've been doing has been setting us up for long-term scale growth, larger revenue targets and different things. And we're actually starting to really dig into some other business lines as well, taking some of what we've done in person for our clients. I'll give you an example of this. We do a program with our clients called the Best Manager Academy, and that's really where managers get into focusing on employee engagement as the outcome that they want and how strengths plays into that. But we've had so much great traction with that with our clients internally that we've been doing it. We've had a lot of requests for people, can they get signed up with us doing kind of an open enrollment type thing in a live format in a virtual sort of place. We're in the process of getting those set up right now and getting those established here coming up very, very soon as 2020 sort of programs that we'll be doing.
Super cool. Exciting stuff. And, you mentioned about kind of going, I don't know what you'd call it, but like moving laterally, right? Like you figure out all the stuff and then you're like, well, let me find some new market to tap into, or let me replicate in some way this thing that I've built. And then I'm also hearing from you that like just doing something live, right? And those are two things that have been really kind of back in my mind these days. Like sometimes when people ask us for stuff, we don't want to just drop everything we're doing just to accommodate like one oddball request. But I've been kind of keeping in mind more of like, okay, if someone's asking about this, is there a way that I can like accommodate that request or work it into my program? And so, for example, like I've neglected for a couple of years doing live courses. Like we do live courses and then have the recordings back for someone to grab. And nowadays I'm like, sometimes I might just do a new live course just because some people just want the live aspect of it, right? So why fight it? And I mean, it's a really simple concept, but there's something to that idea of like, if someone's asking for something, why not find a way to give it to them if it's easy to do, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so often, we get into this mode sometimes for those of us that are entrepreneurs. I think, we can all be kindred spirits in that way, right? But we're always thinking about, we got to hunt down that new client. We got to go get that new client. But a lot of times your best client is who's already paying you and they might already be in a place where you have so much more value that you can provide for them. You just got to spend the time to actually talk to them, to connect with them. Mike Michalowicz, a really good friend of mine, he wrote the book, The Pumpkin Plan. I think he's actually been on your show in the past before.
Yeah.
And in the Pumpkin Plan, that's something we're actually heavily in the season of as a company right now. We're going back and re-looking at who our actual pumpkins are. And those are pumpkins. When we say pumpkins, who we can grow into those, the metaphor is those giant pumpkins that exist here coming up in October around Halloween. How is it that those farmers grow those giant pumpkins? And when we're looking at our clients and growing our business, how do we find the clients that can be like those giant pumpkins in our business? So we're in that season of looking, connecting with a lot of those folks. And then some, even if they've been, really, really solid revenue clients in the past or leading up to this point, sometimes they're at a different place in their life cycle. We're at a different place in ours. We got to be able to evaluate and say, is this even a right fit for us? What have we learned from this relationship? Where can we drill deeper? Or what are pivots that we need to make? And the other piece that we're looking at doing is offering what we're doing on a wider scale to more people at the same time, and kind of an all-comers sort of a platform. What that's ultimately going to do, Robert, is be able to reduce the actual cost for clients on an individual basis with being able to gain access to some of our stuff that we've really coined and developed over time to create greater impact, but actually reducing the cost for everybody across the board.
And so when you're explaining like what you're trying to do and like what you're trying to like kind of grow and evolve to, how do you even make sense of that? Because it seems like there might be a lot of like second guessing or thinking about a lot of scenarios or worrying about like doing too much work or becoming like too many things to so many people. So how do you take that whole mess and all that chaos and make it where you're like, okay, well, I know that we need to like, readjust and do some cool things and, have that pumpkin plan, but like, how do you even begin with all that?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So a couple of things. Number one, we got to spend some time looking at the numbers. The numbers don't lie, right? So we got to look at the revenue. But behind that revenue, we actually have to think of, well, what's the cost of actually generating that revenue? And this cost comes, we've got a client, we've had client experiences, some of them have been outstanding. They pay like clockwork. You have 30-day cycles, that revenue comes in. You have some that you just go back and forth with, and they're making constant changes. They have constant issues with scheduling, with different things like that. Those are internal. Those are things that are outside of our control. They have payment delays, different things like that. All of a sudden, they're looking for 60-day, 90-day, 120-day type terms. All of a sudden, that can feel like, wait a minute, hey, we're a consulting company. We're not a bank, right? We're not bank of 34 strong. We're actually 34 strong. Or, whatever the name of your business is. We can get so caught up in chasing top line revenue that we stop looking at the health of the business. And something Mike and I, we've talked about quite a bit in the past, and he's mentioned this many times, is he says, revenue is great, but oftentimes it's a stress on your business. Profitability is actually kind of the health check on your business. So making sure that we're intentional in taking a look at those pieces and where those are coming from the sources. Other huge tells that are just gut checks outside of the dollars and cents side, Robert, are simply this. What's our cringe factor, right? If the phone rings and you're thinking about, oh my gosh, I have that client calling, I'd rather try and run through a wall than deal with that person. Or that you're going to do a 1-hour session with that client, but it's going to take you 10 hours to develop because they're going to go back and forth. And they're just a pain to deal with. They're a pain not only with who it is when you're delivering that service, but everything along the way, the administrative process, the project setup. We can start taking inventory of that. And it'll help us to really reveal and kind of polish the diamond, not of who the client is, but who we are in terms of what our true strengths are that we can offer and the value that we actually bring to our clients. And as a result, what types of clients we actually want to have. So asking those kinds of things, having certain laws, and the pumpkin plan, it's defined as, your immutable laws, right? So we've got a clause, no jerks allowed. That includes on our team and clients that we're willing to work with.
Interesting. So what I'm hearing a lot of from your responses here is like how important it is to write things down and reflect and ask these right questions, right? Like you were saying how there's the concept of watering the tree, even though it's not like you water the tree and instantly it sprouts. Like it's sometimes counterintuitive, or sometimes
Mhm.
there's that amount of that forward long term or the faith-based thinking. And what you're making me think of is like, you're all about like the getting the right people hired for the right things, and you're all about, like the company culture and all that. And you're making me think way back to, I had a friend once who was doing a job interview, right? I mean, that kind of thing's your bread and butter, right? Figuring out like where people fit. And he was saying that they interviewed him, and the company was asking him, what would you do to eliminate pirated copies of software on the computers in our company? And the usual like response would be like this or that. And his response was more of like the problem solver, kind of like IT person thing, where he's like, well, I'd make a spreadsheet for this, I'd do an inventory for that, I'd have a procedure for this, I'd have someone take this kind of action. And so it kind of clicked with me that like sometimes it's not always about having just that snappy, quick solution. It's about like having things written down, having things organized, having a plan, and then making progress from that. And that's a really simple concept, but that made a lot of sense to me, that sometimes we just have to have that inventory taken and know what the goal is, and then just start taking some steps, right?
Absolutely. And on that point, I love what you said there. I mean, the simple analogy, going back to the plant story. If you're watering, you're growing tomatoes in your garden, right? You plant it, it's a seedling. You're not going to pull it up every week to make sure that the roots are growing. You're going to look to see that the plant is growing above ground. That's how we know that the water is working. But you're not going to check to make sure the roots are growing. But that's how it ties in. When we're thinking about this, on the culture side and even the client side, how this plays in on the business elements. If we've done all of this work to build a great culture internally in our company, but we're allowing clients in that operate to the complete counter of the culture that we've allowed these external forces to come in and force us into a place just because they're not a good match, or because we're desperately trying to do something that we're really not equipped to do. We're actually running the risk of starting to cannibalize our internal culture as well. And so it's not only the internal culture. When we're talking about the strengths-based approach, there's a human development internally, but we also have to realize that branding, there's the internal brand, which is the culture piece that we heavily work on. And then there's the external brand. And we're often heavily focused on the external brand. What are our customers saying about us? What are our clients saying about us? But if we're spending a bunch of our time working on the wrong clients, we're not going to set ourselves up for that external brand to be represented properly. And no matter how much work we do on our internal brand, we're not going to actually get to those clients that we can serve most effectively, because we don't pause long enough to allow the internal culture to help guide the way, and even some of our external heavy hitters, our best clients, to really reveal themselves and say, you know what? I am going to play favorites with some of our clients, because these are the ones that have the greatest capacity for us to grow, for us to really make a true long-term impact. And you know what? They're also probably the people that they're working with and the businesses that they can refer us to. Guess what? They are probably going to be more aligned with those people. You connect with your clients that you're spending 80% of your time on, that generate 20% of your business, and that are really, really a pain in the neck. Who are they going to refer you to as well? Not necessarily great clients. They're going to put you in more dog with fleas type of relationships, right? And getting more comfortable looking at that is critical. And for us as entrepreneurs, we really have to make sure that we're staying above just the day-to-day and into seeing how all of the gears are kind of turning, or at least giving ourselves iterations to pause. We've got a retreat coming up in a couple weeks, Robert. We actually had a goal that we hit last year as a team. So the whole team's actually going to Hawaii for a team retreat. And that's exactly what we're doing. We're going through our client list and evaluating who are our greatest clients that we have. What are the ways that we can continue to improve what we're offering to them, create a bigger impact. And who are ones that maybe aren't the right fit? Who are the clients that maybe aren't the right fit? Maybe we're not the best company to serve them. Maybe we have others that we're aware of that could be a better fit for serving some of those clients. Because at the end of the day, we do want the best for anybody that we're serving, but we've got to look in the mirror and ask, are we really the best fit, or are there other companies out there that might be better fit that we could refer them to if we're not best aligned?
And that right there, that's something that, you know how sometimes you just keep seeing the same patterns in a short period of time happening again and again. And that's something that these last 2 weeks, like just in, meetups and masterminds and things, that I've been hearing more of that topic of like, you might have these handful of clients and a few are great and few just are a drag on you and your business in every which way. And then some people might have to cut some of those, some of that dead weight loose, so to speak, even though it might be scary, even though it might be a reduction in revenue, but it's to set yourself up for something better. But then what keeps coming up in just the topics from just wherever I am around is that it doesn't have to be just cut them off. It could be raise your rates. It could be pass them off to some other company or some other client. And I thought that idea in particular was like kind of some out of the box thinking, right? Like if you have this coaching client, don't just cut things off, but if you have someone else in your network you can pass them on to, then maybe they'll be a better fit. Maybe that client will be happier. Maybe they'll feel like you took care of them. Plus you double dip because that client or that coach that you pass them off to, now they owe you one in a way. So it's like, it doesn't always have to be this just cut and dry black and white thinking. And it seems like from some of your answers here, it's just that we keep reinforcing of how important it is to reflect, slow down, take breaks, have the mastermind in Hawaii, and just like really think about what led me here, right? Because it's easy for us to just be going 200 miles a minute every day. And then sometimes we take detour after detour. And just because we kind of got pushed in this way and that way, just chasing the money. And next thing you know, you're like, this is not where I wanted to be. And I would just ended up here because I just made a lot of small movements and wasn't thinking about the bigger picture. So like, this is some huge stuff.
Well, it's so on par, Robert. We live in a highly execution-centric society, right? So everything, you got to be more productive. You got to do more of this, do more of that. And I'm actually getting to a point, you're one of the things that you started off with, like, what have I been up to? What's been some part of the primary focus for me on a personal level in my own life and within the 34 strong existence cycle? I've actually been getting into a place where I'm wondering if the ultimate productivity hack is not doing more, but it's actually figuring out what to do less of, kind of adapting a little bit more of that minimalist perspective and really asking what are the things that we're willing to pull off to see where those really big rocks are. Because when you see those big rocks with clarity, what they can do for us in life and in our business, it's pretty profound. Because if not, we just stay on that standard script of, oh, I'm an entrepreneur. I have to, using your words, right? I have to be going 200 miles per minute. And we don't stop and ask, why am I doing this? Where is this actually leading to? I've been doing this for the past 3 years, and I've grown my top line revenue by 10%, and I've grown my expense ratio by 30%. What's the point of that? What is the point of that? And I'm not making impact, and I'm feeling stressed out. And this is the story of so many of us in the space of entrepreneurs. Hey, look, I've been there. It's a constant battle, and it's a constant struggle that we have to embrace. But if we don't take that piece seriously, that why we started our business, why we wanted to create that impact that we initially set out to do, that starts to get lost. And that's exactly why we have to dig into those places. So those pauses, they're actually slowing down to speed up. If you think of, there's the classic by Napoleon Hill, the book, Think and Grow Rich. I'm sure you've read it. And for any of your listeners that haven't, I reread that book at least once a year. I'm in the process of rereading it now. But think of just the title, Think and Grow Rich. It has everything to do with money and nothing to do with money, because it talks about richness through so many different lenses. And we have to spend the time using what you just talked about, making sure that we're pausing to actually think, because think is where the real ideas and perspectives for growth can come through. That can be from ourselves and those that we surround ourselves with. You were talking about with masterminds, different groups that you've been a part of. That's where those seeds for the brilliance of what can be actually start to emerge.
And yeah, and all this relates directly to Think and Grow Rich, right? Like the mastermind and having those goals, and something I need to be better and more diligent about is like having that 1-page plan and reading it every day, or reading it aloud every day, or rewriting it every day. Just all these like simple actions, which seem like you said, like in this day and age, some of these things seem too simple, but then you see people who they don't have any kind of foundation. They don't pursue any fundamentals. They're looking for the quick gimmick, the fancy feature. Let me get my Infusionsoft funnel super crazy and with 5 different branches branching off. And then but then you say, well, do you have a website? Do you have an order button? Are you sending emails? Or are you doing like the simple marketing principles? And I mean, and it's in the last few months, I've been ramping back up. I mean, doing podcast interviews like this. I've been sending more things in the mail, sending like letters and postcards and things like that. Just those really simple marketing techniques that a lot of people overlook just because it's too easy, or they tried it once and it didn't work, or they forgot about it. And especially the most fundamental thing of all is that rereading of the Think and Grow Rich. I love that you reread it every year, and I hear that so often. Like a lot of people, a lot of successful entrepreneurs especially, they kind of treat it as, there you go, you're holding it right up there. They're treated as their Bible, right? They just treat it as like there's hundreds, thousands of millions of people that the ones that like almost religiously go through Think and Grow Rich, they seem to do really well. And the ones that just kind of have heard of it or brushed it off, I mean, they're not doing as well. So why fight it? Why not just go with some of that simple stuff? So we're beginning to ramp things down. We're starting to run out of time. So I want to make sure that everyone knows, like, so with all of these ahas that you've had lately about, making these hard decisions and slowing down to speed up and all that, where does 34 Strong come in? And if people have listened to our talk today and they say, this makes a lot of sense, how do I know if I'm a right fit to talk to you or check out your programs, and where should I go? What should I do? Like, just what's the next step here? If we're talking and people are impressed and blown away by what you have to say, what should their next action be?
Yeah, thank you, Robert. Yeah, I want to say, so one of the places they can go, of course, is they can check us out at 34strong.com. One of the tools that's there that been kind of eating our own cooking, it's this process that we have, and this is whether you've taken the StrengthsFinder or not, but it's the process of going through identifying your own personal grind zones, your own personal greatness zones, and your own personal genius zones. We have a little link that's right there on the home page when you go there. It's a download, and people can go there, and it's a guided exercise. It's outstanding for reflecting on yourself, and it kind of walks you through what the difference is between our grind zones. These are things that you're doing and spending your time with. No matter how much time you've had practicing doing them, they are just a grind, man. They just really wear you thin. Your greatness zones are the areas that you do these things well, you're good at them, and you can perform pretty well. Now, your greatness zones, those are the things that you don't even have to try, and you're already on that next level. People are looking at you like, man, that is just incredible. And you actually don't even think you're doing anything special. These are truly the areas that we have to identify. I've taken that, apply that to self with some of what you've heard recently that I've been up to. I've seen many people apply it inwardly to their business, to their life. And then some people that, some of your listeners might have teams, they've actually used that with their employees as kind of like a coaching tool. That's totally free for people to go through, dig into, to get started on the strengths-based thinking. And if you're finding you're spending a lot of time in your grind zone, start asking yourself, how could I spend more time in my greatness zone, in my genius zone? And if you're going through client, changes like we're talking about, who are the clients that force you into your grind zone? Who are the clients that force you more towards your greatness and your genius zone? How can you spend more time with those? That's where it starts with self. We are looking at doing more of those Best Manager Academy type programs, open enrollment. If people are interested in exploring being a part of that in our 2020, they can just click on the contact us button. Send us a note just saying Best Manager Academy with MOD in it, marketer of the day, just listed, and we'll know that it's from there, and we can make sure that they're lined up and taken care of for becoming a part of that when we get our 2020 programs together for that.
Fantastic. Well, that quiz of finding your strength zone and your grind zone and all that sounds amazing. And everyone should go right now to 34strong.com. That's 34strong.com. That way you can take that quiz. And then while you're, after you take that quiz and while you're there, go to that contact button and send Darren and his team and his company a message. Tell them either, I mean, it could even just be a simple thank you note, right? Say, I heard Darren on the Marketer of the Day. I thought he was fantastic. What else do you have? Or if you specifically know that you want to check out that Best Manager program, but it can't hurt to spend literally 10 seconds. You go there, you fill up that form and say thank you or ask for more information. And there's lots of cool and interesting and fun stuff at 34strong.com. So we'll see you over there at 34strong.com. And thanks, Darren, for taking the time and being open and honest and helping us get to where we need to go. I really appreciate it.
Robert, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on today. I really, really appreciate being back on and had fun as I completely expected to do.
Awesome. Me too. Thank you.